But pretend I have a piece of coal in my hand, and if I had a piece of coal in my hand, I could not tell you whether that piece of coal is coking coal or brown coal. But I can tell you what coal does for America. I can't tell you how to drill an oil well, but I can tell you why we should be drilling a whole lot more of them in America. And I can't tell you how to split an atom, but I can tell you why nuclear power should be a part of America's energy portfolio. And so while my knowledge on drilling, for example, may not be as deep as the knowledge in this room, my knowledge is fairly wide. It's not deep, but it is wide. I study energy issues every single day. Last night at the reception, I talked to many of you, and I was asking you all, what should I speak on today? Now, some of you expressed some concern that last night I didn't know what I was going to speak on today. But you know, the news is ever changing, so no speech that I ever give is the same as the last one because there's always new news. But I wanted to make sure that you all didn't already know what I plan to talk to you about today, because if you already knew it, then you don't need to hear me speak on the topics that I was going to prepare to talk to you about, so I would rearrange it and do something different. But fortunately for me, most of you had no idea what I was talking about when I asked you, do you know this, or do you know this, or do you know this? And you all didn't know that, which is great, because you all know how to do what you do really well. And I can't do what you do. But I have a unique position, a unique contribution to make to the energy industry, in that my role is to educate the public on the positive impact that energy makes in their lives. And you know what? Most people have no clue about that. In my book, Energy Freedom, that you're going to get a free copy of on your way out the door today, because the organization has purchased a copy for each one of you, I have a story in there about the governor of Wyoming. His name is Matt Mead, and I had the opportunity to meet him when he had been elected and not yet inaugurated. And he was telling a story. And he said that when he was campaigning, he went door to door, knocking on the doors, and as he did on one house, a man said to him, "We have got to get off of dirty coal." And Governor Mead said to him, "Well, what do you propose we replace it with?" And the man said, "Why, electricity, of course." Now, I love to tell that story because it represents the general public's view of energy. It tells you how much they know. Now, I accepted the role as executive director of the organizations that I run. I accepted this role 6.5 years ago. And at that time, I truly knew little more about energy than putting gas in my car or flipping the switch on the wall. And there was some hesitation about would I be able to do this role as an energy advocate when I really knew absolutely nothing about it. But it's turned out to be a really good marriage in that because I don't come from the energy industry, I understand what the average person doesn't know and can communicate that to them effectively. And as a part of that role, I follow, as I said earlier, the news every day and what's going on. And you know, in the world of energy, in fact, let me just ask, how many of you feel kind of discouraged about the energy policy coming out of Washington, say maybe for the last 4+ years? How many of you feel kind of discouraged? Okay, good. So we're basically on the same page there. Now, some of you didn't raise your hand. So are you encouraged, Greg?
Not at all.
You're not encouraged? Okay, you're just not a hand raiser?
I was thinking if I left the iron on this morning.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll cut you some slack on that one. I was speaking on Tuesday morning for the annual meeting of the Society of Independent Professional Earth Scientists, SIPES. I was speaking for them Tuesday morning, and when I asked them that, they all raised their hand on that. So I'm not sure that I'm as friendly an audience today as I was then, because 100% of you didn't raise your hand. But I think probably most of you feel pretty frustrated with the energy policy coming out of Washington, and especially this morning, if you're paying attention to the news, we had an announcement that the president is planning to come out with a big new package of climate change initiatives. Now, personally, I think that's in a way a good sign. He's not going to get them all, I don't think, but I think it's signaling that he's planning to approve the Keystone Pipeline. Now, I have been for months predicting that he's not going to approve the Keystone Pipeline, but saying I hope that I am wrong. But the fact that he's coming out with this, the environmentalists are really angry with the president at the moment. And you know, they are his ardent supporters, and they are really angry with him at the moment. But in the midst of a lot of bad news that's out there, there's some really good news. And so I'm here to encourage you and to serve as somewhat of a cheerleader. And I've titled my little presentation today, Hip Hip Hooray. Because I want to tell you 3 stories that are going on right now that I believe probably most of you have missed that signal some good things for the energy policy in America. Not just the energy industry, but the energy policy in America. And if I can, excuse me just a second, if I can grab this for a moment, if I can draw your attention here to my low-tech PowerPoint presentation that has a few little pictures on it. They're on your table if you don't have one already. I'd encourage you to pick that up. And as you look at this, I want to draw your attention to the dark picture that is on this little card. Now, when you look at that picture, what is that picture of? There's cheating down below, so you can come up with the right answer. Okay, so what is this picture of? The Korean Peninsula. This is a picture of the Korean Peninsula. Now, when you look at that, what do you notice about the Korean Peninsula? What do you notice about North and South Korea? What's the difference? The north is dark, okay? North Korea is dark. Now, if you look closely, you'll see there is one spot there where the capital city is, and I understand that that was Kim Jong-il's large screen television set. But this is the North Korea at night. This is a satellite photo of the Korean Peninsula. And at night, North Korea is dark. But what is South Korea?
Looks like West Virginia.
South Korea is bright. South Korea is well lit. Now when you look at it, North Korea is a communist country. South Korea, on the other hand, is a free market, democratic, and developed country. What's the difference? Energy. There's a big difference in energy because energy and freedom are connected. And when you take away energy, you take away freedom. And when you study the environmentalist behavior every day as I do, you come to realize that while they may be green on the outside like environmentalism, when you study what they're doing every day, can I have one of those pens, please? I failed to bring my props up front with me. When you study what they're doing every day like I do, you realize that while they are green on the outside, that they are really red on the inside, which means neo-communism, neo-socialism, or if you don't want to go that far, really it boils down to just control. So on the table for you I have some pens as a reminder, if you like that. These pens, they're not the fanciest pens. Some of the vendor booths over there have much nicer pens than these, but I venture that they're not this fun. Because these pens have a green barrel, but while they are green on the outside, they write red ink on the inside. And they say on the pen, green on the outside, red on the inside, smashthewatermelons.org. And then there's also for you on your table some Smash the Watermelon bumper stickers for those of you who like kind of snarky messaging. So the environmentalists have been working very hard in this country, specifically in the last 4.5 years, but really for the last 40 years. The environmentalists have been working very hard to block energy development in America. Now, it's not just about America. The first story that I want to tell you that I believe is positive and encouraging actually starts in Europe. The idea is that climate change. Now, if you think about it, well, we have announcements today about big new climate change mitigation plans and so forth. The whole messaging of climate change has changed. The whole battle of climate change has changed. How many of you know what happened on April 16th in Europe? Oh, good. If you all knew, I would be disappointed again. I think you don't need me to be here. But when none of you know what happened on April 16th in Europe, now you may recall, I'll give you a little excuse for why you don't know this, because the Boston bombing happened on April 15th. And that sort of consumed the news cycle for about the next 10 days or so. So this news that I'm about to share with you, you probably would have known, I'm sure, if it wasn't for the Boston bombing. You all would have been right on top of this. But on April 16th in Europe, the European Parliament voted not to prop up their teetering cap and trade program. Do you know what I'm talking about? Okay? They voted not to prop it up. One of the members of the European Commission, his name is Roger Helmer, he said about this decision, it would also, though the EC doesn't mention this, make energy more expensive, undermine European competitiveness even further, drive even more businesses and jobs and investments offshore, known in the jargon as carbon leakage, and force more households into fuel poverty. That's why the European Commission voted not to prop up their failing cap and trade program, because they realize it's ruining the economy. Okay? Now realize Europe is who started the entire climate change, man-made global warming agenda. Europe was concerned, I believe, about their competitiveness, because in America, as a country, we are rich in natural resources. We have enough oil, gas, coal, and uranium to power this country independently for centuries to come. There is no energy shortage in America. What we have in America is an access shortage, not an energy shortage. And you all in this room are largely responsible for that. So we have an abundance of energy that is affordable and available. Sort of available, at least. It's there for us. Europe, on the other hand, has a dearth of natural resources. And so their energy prices are much higher than ours are in America. And so they got this idea that we'll do this whole climate change, man-made global warming agenda. We'll embrace this idea that I understand Margaret Thatcher started to quell a coal mining rebellion, a union strike. But they embraced this idea because if we all bought into this climate change agenda, it would level the playing field for energy between America and Europe. America wouldn't have that competitive advantage. So Europe actually started the climate change agenda, but realized they are now dialing back. I just read this morning that in Germany, they are threatening the EU that if the other countries do not back down on their emission standards, that BMW and Mercedes-Benz are going to quit manufacturing cars in their countries. They are dialing back on this. How many of you know this? I love this piece of news. I'm not sure why I find this so entertaining, but how many of you know what is the single largest renewable fuel source in Europe? Wind, do you think? Okay. Anyone else have a different opinion?
Water.
Water's a good guess. It's wrong also, but it's a good guess. Okay? The largest single source of renewable fuel in Europe is wood. Wood. Now, in Poland and I believe Finland, 90% of their renewable fuel in those countries is wood. It is the biggest single renewable fuel source in Europe. Now, they made standards back then for renewable fuels. And they said wood counted as a renewable fuel. It certainly is renewable, happens to produce more carbon than coal, but it is definitely renewable. So they made that part of their standards. But guess what? As they've ratcheted up the amount of renewable fuels they have to use, Europe doesn't have that many trees. So guess what they're doing? Where are they getting the wood pellets they're burning in coal-fired power plants? They can co-fire them, meet their renewable energy standards without having to build new power plants. Where are they getting their wood pellets?
From us.
The United States.
Right.
Thank you, Bill. They're getting it from the United States and Canada. You're